After cancer, food can start to feel stressful. Suddenly, every bite feels like it might matter, especially when it comes to fat. Many survivors ask me, is it really safe for me to eat foods rich in fat without harming my health and gaining weight? In this video, I'm going to explain why fat is not the problem, what's the real reason that people gain weight when eating fat, and how you can eat fats in a way that will not make you gain weight, increase your energy levels, and support your metabolism while avoiding the biggest mistake you could be doing when increasing fats in the diet. Maybe you're thinking, am I trying to break the rules of nutrition science here? How could it possibly be true that you can eat fat, the most calorie-dense food, without automatically gaining weight? And you would be right doing so. But here's the critical piece that often is missing from the conversation. Calories do not decide what happens in the body. Hormones do. Science is showing that calories are not treated the same once they enter the body. Calories are simply units of energy. What determines whether those calories are burned, stored, or even excreted in the urine is the hormonal environment these calories run into once they enter the body. The best example for this is when a person with type 1 diabetes forgets to inject insulin after a meal. His urine will be high in glucose because there is no insulin to guide it from the blood into the cells. And a quick note before we go on, although I'm a registered dietitian, I'm not your dietitian, so please remember this video is for educational purpose only. Always consult your healthcare team about changes to your diet, especially after cancer. So you can imagine a traffic controller, not for cars, but for calories. And this is the hormone insulin. Insulin doesn't just regulate blood sugar, it tells the body what to do with all incoming calories, carbs, proteins, and fats. When insulin levels are chronically elevated, a condition also called insulin resistance, the body is signaled to store the energy mainly as fat. This is where we struggle to lose weight. So, do we need to reduce our calories and avoid fats? And before we can answer that question, we need to be introduced to insulin's best friend. It's another hormone that is even more involved in weight regulation. Its name is leptin. Insulin and leptin work in coordination. So what does leptin do? Under healthy conditions, leptin tells our brain, we're okay, we have enough energy and it's safe to burn fuel. But under insulin resistance, leptin signaling to the brain can become impaired, a condition called leptin resistance. So the brain is no longer responding properly to leptin's message, even when our energy stores are full. And sometimes people think that you need to be overweight to have insulin and leptin resistance, but that's not true. Normal weight people can have these problems too. This study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, published in 2024, looked at 1,290 healthy adults with different body weights and concluded that those with leptin levels which were elevated relatively to their fat mass had also insulin resistance regardless of body weight. So normally, leptin tells the body to burn and spend energy freely, like spending money after you've won the lottery. When leptin signaling breaks down, the opposite happens. Without us noticing, the body shifts into energy-saving mode. Metabolism slows, unnecessary movement is reduced, and fat cells stop releasing fuels and stay locked in a storage mode. This can mean burning hundreds fewer calories per day without feeling or doing anything differently. So in that context, is it right to think about body weight based on calories alone? Because what looks like eating very little may still not trigger fat loss, because the brain is actively holding on to energy. We see this all the time in real life. Two women sit at a restaurant, same age, same weight, eat the exact same piece of cake, and let's say the calorie tag on this cake is 500 calories. One will gain the weight, the other will not. And it's not about willpower or luck. Their bodies are simply burning those calories differently because their hormones are working differently. So what do we need to do if we're struggling to lose weight? The answer is simple. What we need to do is to restore the balance of these two hormones, and it's definitely within our control. But how do we do it? And to answer this question, we need to make a key distinction here. Among all calories, carbs, proteins, and fats, it's the dietary fat that has the smallest effect on insulin, meaning fat puts the least stress on insulin, and this is why 2 meals with the same number of calories can result in completely different effects on insulin and leptin. A meal high on healthy, nourishing fats and low on carbohydrates will restore hormonal balance, will allow us to burn these fats as quickly as they are eaten, and improve our energy levels throughout the day. So what's the real reason people gain weight when eating fat? The first reason is because most their meals contain these two ingredients: harmful fats combined with carbohydrates from the kind that spike insulin, that are eaten on a daily basis and giving insulin a hard time. This causes insulin to rise and promote weight gain. This is the simple recipe for weight gain: high insulin and high calories combined. And before we continue to the second reason people gain weight when eating fats, it's important to know that according to the WHO, the World Health Organization, excessive weight gain is comparable to smoking when it comes to cancer risk. So where many survivors experience long-lasting changes in insulin sensitivity, inflammation, and other imbalances, we do not want to focus only on calories or to be afraid from fat simply because it's dense in energy. This increases stress where there shouldn't be any stress. But this raises another question. What distinguishes a good fat from a bad fat? Because we know that while some fats can actively support metabolic recovery, reduce chronic inflammation, and put minimal stress on insulin, other fats do the opposite. Examples of such fats you want to minimize exposure to are all the oils, also called refined oils, that are available in every supermarket. Because during the production of these oils, they go through the refining process in which they are completely stripped of their antioxidant shields. This shield naturally surrounds and protects the oil while it's inside the seed, the nut, or the fruit. Once these unprotected fats are inside our bodies, they are more exposed to oxidative damage, and when that happens, they themselves become damaging to the body from inside. They cause chronic inflammation by damaging our blood vessels and cells. On the other hand, good fats tend to share 3 characteristics. They are stable, they are anti-inflammatory, and minimally disturbing to insulin signaling. This includes the fats from whole foods like nuts and seeds, avocado, or extra virgin olive oil, or other oils which did not go through the refining process. And of course, the omega-3 rich fats from the kind that come from fish. Now, you may have noticed our good fats are all coming from plant sources but one. And that's a topic for an entire video, but it's too important to ignore. Fats coming from animal sources such as meat, poultry, seafoods, fish, and also dairy can accumulate extremely toxic and carcinogenic toxins from the environment called dioxins. But the good news is that they come in relatively very small amounts. The higher the animal is in the food chain, the more dioxins are accumulated. But this accumulation cannot happen in plants. So a good rule of thumb is to get most fats from plant sources. And as per the recommended omega-3 rich fish, eat the ones lower in the food chain, like anchovy, sardines, herring, salmon, etc. These good fats can actively help us rebalance insulin and leptin by reducing chronic inflammation. So how do we translate that into one simple change you can make to eat fats and balance your hormones at the same time? This may actually come as a relief for some people. You don't need to count calories, you don't need to fear fat, and you don't need to change your entire diet. The single simplest change is this: choose one meal during the day that is rich in healthy fats and combine it with a big portion of high-fiber foods like green leaves and non-starchy veggies. This will also help you cut down on foods that stress insulin, like bread, pastries, sugar snacks, sweetened yogurts, or other processed carbs. And why is it working? I've seen this happen countless times in my clinic. Cancer survivors that have been stuck with extra weight for years start to eat more of the good fats and pair them with vegetables and greens, start to lose weight for the first time after endless failing attempts. The fats provide long-term satiety, and the low-calorie veggies provide volume and balance the energy-dense, nourishing fats. Okay, but what about proteins? Proteins do increase insulin, but have a milder effect on insulin compared to carbs. And proteins also slow digestion, which is further reducing stress on insulin. This is why something as simple as switching from fat plus sugar to fat plus vegetables and proteins can have dramatic results. And don't worry, carbs don't have to disappear completely. The truth is that the nuts and seeds, which are considered fats, are actually very rich in both carbohydrates and proteins. So at the end, it comes to choosing the foods that have the mildest impact on insulin that matters the most. But make sure you're not doing these two mistakes while enriching with good fats. The first mistake will harm your sleep, which will result in stressing insulin, and that's eating heavy meals near bedtime. Now pay close attention, because the second mistake is the one most people ignore. You know this moment when you open the fridge and you grab a small snack, and then maybe it's the fruits on the table that caught your eye, and you end up eating a fruit or two, a bite here, a handful there, something harmless between meals. It really doesn't feel like much, but your hormones see that as a problem, because every time you eat, even a small amount, insulin goes up. Not a lot, but enough. And when that happens over and over again throughout the day, insulin never really gets a chance to come back down. And when insulin stays high, fat burning stays off. On top of that, leptin cannot do its job properly, and the body stays stuck in this energy-saving mode. So what would be a better approach? Eat 3 solid, satisfying meals and don't snack in between. You don't need to eat less. You don't need to count calories. You just need to give your body clear signals. When meals are spaced out, insulin has time to fall. That's when fat cells can finally release energy and leptin signaling starts to work better again. When that happens, weight becomes much easier to manage and food stops feeling stressful. So now you know how to eat fats without harming your health or gaining weight. But fats are just one element in your recovery strategy. If you want to know what is the healthy activity that may harm your immune defense, check out this video.